Welcome to Southwest Desert, where adventure meets the arid beauty of the American Southwest. Join me as we explore Southwest's lost historical characters, stunning desert vistas, forgotten Native American history, or tales of lost gold mines. There's always something new to discover. Subscribe now and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on our latest desert adventures. Let's journey together into the heart of the Southwest Desert. Sit back and enjoy. The American frontier was dying. The wild lands were being tamed. Railroads were stretching their iron fingers across the continent, and the era of cowboys and outlaws was slowly fading into legend. But in this twilight of the Old West, there lived a man who would bridge two worlds, a figure whose life story reads like a dime store novel, yet every word of it is true. This is the tale of Robert W. Bob Lewis, a lawman, rancher, and living testament to the changing American Southwest. In 1866, as the nation was still healing from the Civil War, a child was born in Alabama who would grow up to become one of New Mexico Territory's most remarkable lawmen. At the age of 3, young Bob Lewis's family moved to Comanche County, Texas, where fate would place him in proximity to two brothers whose names would later become infamous, the Ketchums. Life on a Texas ranch would shape his early years, building the foundation of frontier skills that would serve him throughout his remarkable life. At 19 years old, Lewis embodied the quintessential American spirit of westward expansion. Looking at his life in Texas, he made a decision that would shape his destiny. He would, in his own words, grow up with the country. In 1885, he saddled his horse and pointed its head toward New Mexico Territory, a land that was still wild, still untamed, and desperately in need of men who could help bring order to chaos. The New Mexico that greeted Lewis was a territory in transition. He arrived in Magdalena, a town that had been established just months earlier in the fall of 1884. Located 27 miles west of Socorro, Magdalena was already proving itself vital as the western terminus of the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad spur. Everything moved through this bustling frontier town: cattle from western New Mexico, sheep from the surrounding regions, and valuable lead and silver ore from the nearby Kelly mining town. It was a place of opportunity, danger, and destiny. Lewis began his New Mexico life as a cowboy at the V-Cross T Ranch near the San Agustin Plains. His natural aptitude for ranching and his strong work ethic soon led him to establish his own ranch operation near the southwest edge of what would later become Catron County. This independent spirit and entrepreneurial drive would become hallmarks of his character. It wasn't long before Lewis had his first taste of frontier justice, a tale so remarkable it would seem impossible if it weren't so well documented. Pursuing a horse thief through the mountains for 5 miles, Lewis took a bullet through his knee but didn't falter. He fired through a tree, striking the thief in the left hip, then shot through the man's horse to hit him in the right hip before delivering the final shot. This display of determination and marksmanship would become a hallmark of his future law enforcement career. Thank you for joining your desert frontiersman Alan for another Southwest adventure. If you would like to help support my time and channel, hit the super thanks heart icon on the bottom of the video and contribute. This is very helpful. Relax and enjoy. The 1890s found Lewis serving as foreman of the N-Bar Ranch, where his path would cross multiple times with Blackjack Ketchum. These encounters revealed a curious aspect of the notorious outlaw's character, his habit of paying for items he had stolen. These observations would later prove valuable in understanding the complex personalities of the frontier's most infamous characters. But perhaps the most pivotal moment in Lewis's life came in 1896 when he married Flora Higgins. This union wasn't just a marriage. It was an alliance that connected him to one of the most fascinating frontier families in New Mexico. His father-in-law, Patrick Higgins, was a former military man who had served at various New Mexico posts and possessed something rare among white men of his time: a genuine friendship with the Apache leader Geronimo. The Higgins family's relationship with the Apaches was so strong that they were protected during raids, identified by white bands that marked them as friends. Years later, when Lewis himself met Geronimo at Fort Sill, the famous warrior's initial cold reception thawed instantly at the mention of the Higgins name. This encounter revealed a different side of the legendary Apache leader, one rarely seen by outsiders, and demonstrated how personal relationships often transcended the broader conflicts of the era. By 1903, Lewis had found his true calling in law enforcement. As chief deputy under Sheriff Leandro Baca in Socorro County, he served as jailer and began building a reputation for effectiveness that would only grow when Governor Miguel A. Otero appointed him sergeant in the New Mexico Territorial Mounted Police in 1905. The Mounted Police, New Mexico's answer to the Texas Rangers, would see Lewis rise to become their second-in-command, earning promotion to lieutenant and establishing himself as a formidable pursuer of outlaws. Lewis cut an imposing figure, standing over 6 feet tall and weighing more than 200 pounds. His physical presence alone was often enough to keep the peace, though when force was necessary, his methods could be surprisingly creative. His law enforcement style was marked by practical judgment and a unique approach to justice, as evidenced by numerous memorable incidents throughout his career. As Magdalena's town marshal, he once dealt with a troublesome drunk cowboy, not by drawing on the man directly, but by shooting his horse in the neck. Just a graze, sending a clear message about his marksmanship and resolve. Years later, Lewis would admit with characteristic honesty that he'd actually been trying to kill the horse. His legendary accuracy wasn't quite as perfect as everyone believed. Another telling incident occurred when he allowed a prisoner to fight a heckler who had been tormenting him, trusting the prisoner's word that he would return to custody afterward. This practical approach to justice, though unconventional by today's standards, proved effective in maintaining order in a frontier society where formal legal structures were still developing. Beyond his law enforcement duties, Lewis became entangled in some of the Southwest's most enduring mysteries. In 1889, he encountered the legendary Adams of the Lost Adams diggings, guiding him to Fort Wingate and protecting him from threats. Lewis witnessed firsthand Adams's fearful behavior, suggesting the truth behind the famous lost mine story was darker than many suspected. Nearly 30 years later, in 1918, Lewis would find what he believed was the fabled location, complete with skeletons and an old cabin. Everything matched the stories except for one crucial detail: the gold was gone. Lewis developed a theory that a wandering sheep herder had found the treasure in the intervening years, adding another layer to one of the Southwest's most famous lost treasure tales. In 1915, Lewis led another historical expedition, the search for Cooney. Leading a 4-person team, he discovered the remains of the lost pioneer in a remote canyon, along with remarkable artifacts including a final diary, gold nuggets, and a map drawn on buckskin. These discoveries would help piece together another fragment of New Mexico's complex historical puzzle. After his time with the Mounted Police, Lewis demonstrated remarkable adaptability, taking on various roles that showcased his diverse talents. He worked as a cowhand at Vermejo Park and served as a range and livestock inspector for the Cattle Sanitary Board. His management abilities led him to positions as diverse as running the Park Hotel in Socorro and managing a CCC camp at Sandia Park. He even tried his hand as a carpenter in Mogollon, all while maintaining periodic service as a Socorro County deputy sheriff and Magdalena town marshal. His unique perspective on historical figures like Black Jack Ketchum provided invaluable insights into the era's most notorious characters. Having grown up near the Ketchum brothers in Texas and encountered them multiple times in New Mexico, Lewis considered Black Jack cold-blooded and cowardly, while seeing something different in his brother Sam, a hint of bravery and potential goodness that might have manifested under different circumstances. Throughout his career, Lewis witnessed and participated in numerous significant events of New Mexico's territorial period. His experiences range from the Fountain murder case to encounters with Billy the Kid, and his observations would later prove invaluable to historians studying this pivotal era. Author Agnes Morley Cleveland would later cite Lewis's contributions to New Mexico history, recognizing him as a crucial source for understanding the territory's development. In his later years, Lewis settled in Magdalena, becoming a living repository of frontier knowledge and experience. In 1949, the Albuquerque Tribune published a 4-part series based on interviews with him, preserving his remarkable stories for future generations. These interviews captured not just the facts of his life, but the spirit of an era, the transition from the Wild West to modern New Mexico. Bob Lewis's life spans one of the most transformative periods in American history. He arrived in New Mexico when it was still very much the Wild West and lived to see it become a modern American state. His story is more than just that of a lawman or a rancher. It's the story of the American frontier itself, of a land and a way of life in transition. From a young man setting out to grow up with the country to a respected elder sharing his memories with newspaper reporters, Bob Lewis embodied the spirit of his era. His legacy lives on in the historical record, helping us understand a time when the American Southwest was still wild, still dangerous, and still full of possibility. Through his experiences as a rancher, lawman, manager, and witness to history, Lewis provided future generations with an invaluable window into a crucial period of American development. His story reminds us that the taming of the frontier wasn't just about famous gunfights and notorious outlaws. It was about the everyday courage, adaptability, and determination of men and women who helped transform a territory into a state and a wilderness into a home. I hope you enjoyed this lost Southwest tale. Check out my large video catalog of Southwest history, lost gold stories, and adult bedtime stories. Happy trails! Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more great content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.